Hi everyone, this is Jim Tolles. Today I want to talk about moving between conscious and unconscious states. Now, shortly after an awakening and all the fun that may come with a kind of high bliss state that likes to show up for a lot of people, doesn't show up for everyone. I wouldn't say that it really showed up for me in the way that some people experience, where they're just so full of love that that's all they see and that's all they're experiencing everywhere, which is ultimately the truth of life, which is really kind of reassuring, I think, for those of you who haven't touched these spaces. But it is a passing state, and this is one of the ways where I'm always encouraging people to appreciate that the true awakened state embraces all these different states of awareness, including the bliss state. And part of coming into deeper awareness with ourselves usually means we're moving back and forth between the old way of interacting with the world and a new way. And it's kind of a strange thing to say new way, because it's more like I should say the original way. That's more true. But now we can come to it from a place of wisdom. Initially, though, most people don't have that inner discipline and that appreciation of what's going on with this kind of back and forth. It feels kind of like a tug of war, like you're caught between two different things that are pulling you in different directions, and you're like, how do I know which one to go? And then the fear pulls you back into the old unconscious stories, and then you relax out of that, and you're back into this wonderful, beautiful space. And there's a way that some people actually try to run away, even during this process. And this actually can happen in any sort of spiritual shift. You can have an opening, a little revelation comes in, and then you start to see the truth, but you still want to kind of go back. It can be as simple as realizing that smoking is bad for you, right? That simple little bit of awareness comes up, but then there's still that addiction, that pull to go back to this old way of interacting and to, acting that pattern out. And you kind of go back and forth until it really becomes absolutely clear to you that you can't go back, that you don't want to go back, that what's back there is actually harmful to you. It doesn't matter if it's cigarettes or how you're interacting in a fear-based way in your relationships, right? And all that fear has been generating all this attachment, which has made a lot of people who actually really enjoyed your company want to run away from you, and some may have. And so you go back and forth and back and forth, and you can feel like you're on this incredible yo-yo where you're going wing, 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 wing. When's it gonna stop? And it stops usually the more you let go of that old painful way of living, all that unconscious stuff that's now being illuminated. Because part of what also happens is as you turn the big bright light on inside yourself, you start to see more and more of the darkness inside. And that tends to make things, or at least make things feel more painful. In some respects, you're being resensitized. All this numbness that we've done to ourselves through constantly doing and loud music and drugs and alcohol and sex and relationships and working long hours. So we've been trying to distract ourselves and stay numb, to the fact of what's going on inside us. And if there's unmet pain and unmet trauma that's still there, that starts to resurface. So in this way, as you become resensitized, things get more and more painful at first. And this can really scare people. And depending on how much really nasty darkness is sitting back there, that can make the desire to try and forget about the spiritual path grow even stronger, because you're still identified with this part. And this is why I call kind of that initial phase after awakening, the overarching phase, dispelling the darkness, because you're still caught up in it, and this is still what really needs to be kind of worked with, so that you can truly decide, I don't want this anymore. Like, this just does not serve me. I can't live in this fear-based way. I can't do these things to my body that don't feel true, whether it's excessive working out or not working out at all, or eating poorly, right? All these different things, like, they just start to arise, and they arise in their own rhythm. So it's oftentimes, you're peeling back the many layers of an onion. So you've got this first layer, maybe this is the food layer of things you have to do to start to feel more healthy. And then the next layer down becomes this emotional layer. And then maybe you're back to the food layer again in a new way. So there's not really necessarily a set pattern for anyone. It's just kind of, we all have our own set of order of operations that you have to go through. And it's because this is the stuff that's standing in the way of you simply being yourself. As you do that, as you more firmly decide to kind of really take on a certain level of spiritual warriorship, that you're going to go within, that you're going to really face this inner darkness, you start to naturally move into what I call the embracing your light phase, which may actually be more intense, because more of that inner energy, that inner awareness starts to erupt from you. So more and more the floodgates will open up within you to your own love. And this can start to go in these cycles of expansion and contraction, where you drop down and drop up, and you move back and forth. As you kind of clear out this next core issue, then you re-expand out, right? And it may even feel more amazing than your initial awakening or a spiritual shift or opening you've experienced. Always remember there are many types of spiritual shifts. We just have very little language for it. And so as you continue down this path of becoming more and more conscious of what's going on in your space, you'll pull back into another hard issue and things will feel pretty awful for a while. They usually do. You keep, disengaging with the story of the pain, breathing into it, and, allowing whatever you need to do to arise from the space. Sometimes there's nothing that you need to do. A lot of times it's just a letting go and acceptance. And all the tools that we go out and find are just means to help us let go and accept. And then something on its own time frame, because you can't force these things, breaks, and that energy that was pent up here comes out and you re-expand. And so expand, contract, expand, contract. It can make you feel kind of manic. Personally, I was fortunate because my personality growing up in general had never been a manic personality. I wasn't always running between extremes, but definitely during awakening, I was on the same type of a yo-yo. And what I'm referring to right now is kind of the initial phase of awakening. That's really the floodgates have been let loose, and you're just awash in your own energy and awareness, and things are being illuminated, light and dark. I can never emphasize enough that spiritual awakening is embracing the whole of you, what we consider light and dark. It's not putting on the rose-colored glasses in any particular way. And this is part of the reason why it's so shocking, is because a lot of people think it is, right? That's been their idea, and that's been the spiritual path for some people is a means of avoidance. And so to suddenly see that you have to embrace all of this, that all the old shit that was sitting down there is still down there, can be very humbling. So humility can help too as you move through this. And gradually, these swings back and forth start to settle. You start to drop more deeply into the rhythms of whatever is arising. And you're letting go of the idea of what your life should look like, how it should move, what should happen, whether you're a good or bad person, whether life should do this or do that. Like all these things start to settle away so that whatever arises in the moment is okay and that you're at peace with it. And it comes from a natural space of integrity. So when I say good and bad go away, it's the judgment of it, it's the valuation of it that's constantly going on, it's trying to decide what to do here and what's right or wrong. My experience is the more I'm dropped in the space, the more other people do the same. It's just really obvious. Like we're interconnected beings, so for me to go out and punch someone doesn't make sense because I'm just hurting a part of myself, right? And that doesn't come from a space of the idea as much anymore, right? The more integrated you are, and so you'll hear me talk about the way we integrate with the mind, the heart, and the body, and the subtle energies, and bring it all together. It really doesn't feel good. Like you can feel how much it hurts to hit somebody else, and you also feel the pain that's in your body because you join in pain, through that punch. So, saying that that's a wrong thing to punch somebody, you just don't even think about it in those terms. It's just something you don't really want to do. But life is vast, so life will give you scenarios that fall outside any of our abilities to say this is right, this is wrong. And when you really start to move into that space of this is what's arising. So the moving between unconscious and conscious states does gently start to relax as you engage with it. If you don't engage with it, if you try to hold on to the old fearful ways of being, it just is going to feel horrible. And it's going to be, one of those things that a lot of times that's where people get thrust into the so-called dark night of the soul. It's because they're identifying so much with this old unconscious patterning inside them and holding on to that when like so much of them is trying to burst free and to open. And they're not dealing with their issues and they want them to all just go away. And they go into avoidance and denial and, self-imposed ignorance and all these types of things. Then it's going to get a lot worse. It doesn't mean it won't go away eventually. I mean, all things change. But, this is a sacred doorway. And I always encourage people to take it because you never really know what's going to arise next in life and what opportunities will or will not come. And while this awakened space is always here, as I said, there are some doorways, and you know, if a doorway is open for you, I just encourage you to embrace it. You will be okay. Once again, my name is Jim Tolles. You can find me blogging regularly at spiritualawakeningprocess.com, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Thanks.